Content of the video. We got as far as having our template displayed under our controller, so we could also type /index, and our index action will be called, but it's being called implicitly if we leave it out because it's the default value for the action. What's missing around it is the shop, so we simply have the template displayed. So sometimes we just want to change parts of the website and leave the rest unchanged. For example, change the content or change a part of the navigation, but keep all the rest of the page around it. So in order to do this, we have a thing called template inheritance. If you take a look into the existing theme directory, which was themes front end, and then inside bare, where we have the HTML structure of the old shop, front end templates, and then we go to index, because index is the folder containing the page structure. So not the controller specific or the component specific templates, but the old page. So all the elements that are shown on most of the sites, like the header, the footer, or the navigation. And the index TPL is the central point where all these things get assembled. And we want to just replace the default content for the website. So if I show you the default page again, you see all this stuff up here, like the navigation, the search bar, the header is all unchanged if I switch through the different pages. The only thing that changes is the content inside here. So this is what we want to change. What I'm going to do is run the inspector, which should be in this drop down here. It's German, but it should be called something like inspector or developer tools, depending on the browser and the language you're using. So if it doesn't open elements from the start, you have to navigate to this tab, which shows you the HTML structure of the page. And now we want to look for the part that contains the content. So we have this div called content wrapper, but I want to have the old thing, which is called content main inner. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole class definition and go back into PHP Storm. And if I didn't know before that this is located within the index TPL, I would simply click on the themes directory and then right click, find in path, and then I look for the part I just copied, and it marks it here and shows me that it's within the front end index directory. So I'm just gonna confirm with enter, and it places the cursor just in front of the snippet that we've looked for, and we see it has a block around it, and we see we have the left sidebar, we have the content wrapper, we have the right content, if there is one. In this case, the block is empty. But I want to go into the front end index content block, which is you always want to have the innermost block to be overwritten, to not overwrite any of the surrounding blocks. So what I mean by overwriting is what I'm going to show you in the next part. So let's copy this whole block and go back into the template. So we want to inherit the most parts of this index template. So our template will simply look the same as if we were using this template. But instead of having to copy this whole thing, we are just gonna say curly braces, extends, file, and then parent. And then we have to specify the path, again, relative to the theme directory. So starting off with front end, index.tpl. So I'm gonna delete my stuff just for a second to show you what is happening here. So we are in the routing demonstration index.tpl file, so the file which was loaded before. When we call the index action of our routing demonstration controller. So what I'm doing here, say we want to extend the existing file frontend index.tpl. So Smarty, which is our template engine, used in Shopware, is going to look inside a front-end index directory of any template directory that there is. And one of the template directories is obviously our theme directory, so it's going to look into front-end, index, and index and see what is inside this file and replace it or copy it, pretty much copy it into the file that says extend this file. So if I reload our routing demonstration page, you would see that we get an empty page with all the navigation, all the footers set up, and the content region, just without content because we haven't set any. So this is the base that we're starting off with, and I forgot to copy the block that I wanted to overwrite here, so we're going to go back into the index.tpl, and I will copy this block again, and then just paste it in here. Now we can set any content inside this block, and it will be placed exactly at the position where this block is defined in the index.tpl. So I can put my my heading back in there. Oh, I'm a template. Reload the page, and you see it's being rendered in here. So that works perfectly. The next thing I want to do is set up a second action and link between these two actions in order to have some dynamic between the pages. So I'm simply going to set up a second controller action. I'm going to call it foo action. And if we go to the foo action, which we are doing by typing foo in there. Remember, if I would type index, we would be routed to the index action, like it would be in the default case as well. And if I type foo, we are getting routed to the foo action. Now Shopware is complaining again because it is not able to find any template named foo. So we have to create the template as well. So we're going back into front-end routing demonstration and create the template file called foo.tpl. And now I just copy the contents of the index.tpl inside our plugin directory and paste it into the foo.tpl. And I'm just going to change it to hello, I'm the foo action. And inside here, I'm saying, hello, I'm the index action. So if I now reload the page, you can see the foo template gets displayed on the foo action, and the index template gets displayed on the index action. Before we get to link these two templates together, I want to tell a bit about how routing in Shopware works. So if we're going to the home page, you will see that it just routes to the root. So there's an empty path, and we just get to the home page. So usually routes are defined by three components. The first component being the module, the second component being the controller, and the third component being the action. You find just the same structure within our controllers directory, which is built up by the module in the first layer, the controller in the second layer, and the actions of each controller being the third layer. So by specifying the module, the controller, and the action, we can get routed to any controller action that we want to. And all these three components have their specific default values that they're replaced by if they're not specified. So the default value for the module is front end. So Shopware by default routes to the front end module. The default controller is index, and as we already learned, the default action is index as well. So if I go to front end index, which are all the default values, it is the same as if I would navigate to /nothing. And this applies to everything. So I could say front end /account /login, which leads me to the login action of the account controller within the front end module. But because front end is the default value for the module, I could just leave it out as well, and I'd still be routed to the same page.